You probably
Yeah,
dream
but
about
I'm
it. I
gonna
mean,
lean
come
into
on.
it. I'll be like,
I mean, yeah, like who doesn't, right? Like,
That's so ridiculous. Well, then what is like? I mean, the typical. Here's a motovlogger asking another person, like, "What's your dream bike? Like, what is it? The bike that?"
oh man, there's so many. I think top of list for me. This is a bike I've wanted for so long. Do you know about the Honda CBX?
Mm-hmm. I know
the six.
the CMX is the Rebel, but the CBX is I don't know. What
So
is
So the CBX is a bike they made in the 70s. Yeah, you can look it up. It's a bike they made in the 70s and the 80s, I believe, and it featured I think a 1050cc inline six cylinder.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of headers. There's a lot of
yeah,
And I literally only want that bike because of the sound that it makes. I've
I've
okay.
like once I found out about it, it sounds so cool. It probably rides like ass because it was made in the 70s and the suspension is probably garbage and it probably doesn't handle very well. It's not a modern bike, but to me that's a bike I've wanted for forever. What else? Uh, Ducati 916 for sure.
sure.
Okay.
As a
Proud Ducatista that I am now. I just think it's one of the prettiest old school Ducatis made. So that's definitely another one. What about you? What's one of your dream bikes? Tell me.
Dude, I got it. I was waiting for the Indian FTR 1200 since seeing the 750 out on the track, and
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for a long time. And I took my bike off road with the Saturday Scrambler thing, and I was like, man, I really want a bike that looks like my bike, but is more purpose driven for off roading type thing. And they
Mhm.
came out with this, and it's more for fire roads and dirt roads, not necessarily off roading,
Yeah.
but I liked it. And I was gonna get the desert sled. I really was gonna get that, but I was like, man, I want a 1200 because I also want to ride
Yeah.
around town and have my 1200. Which at the end of the day, when I think about it, I mean, 1200 doesn't mean anything really. Um,
Your first ride video with the Indian was amazing because you were just so giddy. Like I
Like I
could
Yeah.
could tell
just how like absolutely like unbelievably exalted you were by being on that bike. So
I haven't
I
felt
love
that
seeing it.
way. Yeah, I haven't felt that way about any bike. So I mean, other
Yeah.
than that one, and then I guess the Indian Challenger, the new Challenger, the bagger bike that they have, that'd be
Yeah.
something that I'd want to
Yeah.
get for long distance or taking my wife around. But whenever I think of like what's my
Um.
favorite bike, I think of what I'm going to use it for. It's
Yeah.
then that's where I go. I don't really pick like some useless bike like a Hayabusa or something. But
It is pretty useless. Yeah. Um.
well, I guess for me as well, like much like your Indian, like the 675R for me is one of my like all time favorites.
Do you get giddy
my
like
third
that?
one.
I've owned, so I must love it. Yeah. Yeah, man. Every time I get on it, I'm just like, this is the best bike. This is the greatest thing in the world. It makes the best sound. It handles the best. I love it. I love that bike.
Awesome. Well, we all need a bike like that. I think if somebody gets a
Absolutely.
bike and they don't like it, it's like, it's time to get a different one or change it up.
Yeah.
What I was gonna ask you actually. So what did you start out on, and when did you start out? I actually don't know that.
November 2011, I started out on that Harley. Like I
Okay.
went to the dealership. My buddy had an '08 Sportster, and I went to the dealership. I was like, I want to get one like him, and I literally got it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an endorsement. I've never ridden a motorcycle before. I've only
Oh
sat on.
wow.
Yeah, I don't even think I sat on the bike until I bought it. Like I just want this. It was so
Wow.
stupid. Should never do that. Nobody should ever do that. Go to a Harley dealership
Yeah.
and say I want to buy one. Um, so I had it trailered
Well,
to
what
the house.
they sold it to you? Oh, they
Yeah,
trailered it
yeah.
to you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they were gonna let me ride it, but
Wow.
yeah, I think it was just because I had my driver's license and all that stuff. So I mean I didn't. Long story short, I just like no,
Did you have a beard at that time?
no. See that's
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I had a
No, I was gonna
mustache.
say because with the power of the beard of the yeah some sort of facial hair they're probably like nah he's good for it he'll be
Yeah. No, I definitely wasn't good for it. They trailered it home, and that night though, like it was at night. I finally got home at night, and bike was there at night. I rode around the not parking lot, the neighborhood, because I already knew how to drive stick shift from my truck. So I was like, okay, well, it's just flipping
Yeah.
the hands and feet. So I did that. Did 30, 40 miles inside the little cul-de-sac area. Like I
Wow.
was just constantly going back and forth practicing, and that's kind of how I started. And I was like a lot of new riders out there, and this is kind of why I do what I do, is because I just got a helmet and I didn't even get gloves. I just wore regular clothes and I started seeing accidents, so I started adding more and more. Then now training, and then I'm like, okay, I'll talk about this, and that's how kind of how
Yeah.
I started. So 2011, the very end of 2011. Yeah, that's when I
So you
started
had that
riding.
Harley, and then you had that bike. Just
I
pretty much that was the only bike, or did you?
that was my bike up until this I think May. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, I had the bike for a
Damn.
long time. Yeah.
Well, now it's your partner's wife, right? It's your wife's bike. Did you?
No,
Or did you get another bike?
I got her a bike. I traded mine in for
Okay.
the FTR, and I got her a Rebel 500, and so
That's a
she
great
rides
bike,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a great bike.